The first time I saw her, I couldn't speak. Not because I was afraid, though fear played a part, but because there was simply no human language capable of capturing the grandeur before me. She was the queen of the Ilyari Empire, a civilization whose reach spanned dozens of star systems and whose reputation for power and elegance had preceded her arrival on countless diplomatic fronts. Her presence was magnetic, and yet it carried the weight of centuries of command. I had been assigned as an observer to the Ilyari Council Summit, an honor and a risk in equal measure. Humans rarely attended these gatherings. We were considered too fragile, too unpredictable, and, frankly, too insignificant to influence interstellar politics. Yet, here I was, standing at the edge of the royal chamber, notebook in hand, heart pounding as the queen entered. She glided across the polished floor of the chamber, her armor-like attire shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed rhythmically, mirroring her aura of authority. Her eyes, deep violet flecked with silver, scanned the room with an intensity that could unsettle the most seasoned diplomats. Every head turned, every whisper stopped, and then finally she stopped.
Her gaze fell on me.
I froze. A human in the middle of an alien royal court was hardly inconspicuous, yet I somehow felt seen, not just noticed, but truly seen. I lowered my eyes, trying to appear deferential, but the truth slipped out before my trained diplomacy could intervene. "She's magnificent," I whispered, almost inaudibly. Time seemed to halt. My words, a mere breath against the backdrop of the council's grandeur, had crossed the air and reached her. I felt my ears heat up, expecting immediate reprimand or a cold dismissal. But instead, she turned. Slowly, deliberately, her head tilting as if to confirm what she had just heard. Her lips curved into a faint smile, not mocking, not disdainful, but curious. "Magnificent, you say?" Her voice resonated in the chamber, melodic yet commanding, carrying effortlessly even across the vast hall. Every eye shifted toward us. I wanted to sink into the floor. "Yes, Your Majesty," I stammered, my notebook trembling in my hands. I didn't mean to, it just... She raised a hand, stopping me. "Silence, human. Speak not to justify your thoughts, but allow them to exist. Your species is forthright." I blinked. I had expected anger, perhaps humiliation, but this was something else entirely. Something I didn't understand. The next few moments passed in an odd suspension of time. The Queen's advisors whispered among themselves, eyes darting toward me with concern. Humans were rarely bold enough to speak directly of admiration in the presence of a sovereign. Even fewer had the audacity to whisper it without deferential hesitation. And yet, there I stood. "Tell me, human," she said after a pause, her gaze locked on mine. "Why do you think me magnificent?" The question stunned me. A test? A trap? I swallowed, weighing my words carefully. "It's not only your presence, Your Majesty," I said finally. "It's the way you command the room without force, the confidence in your gaze, the elegance in every movement. It's unlike anything I've ever seen in any species I've encountered." She tilted her head slightly, studying me. I could feel the weight of her attention, probing, analyzing, and perhaps, for the first time, seeing a human not as a fragile observer, but as an individual capable of perception and honesty. "You speak honestly," she said. "That is rare. Most would veil their words with caution or fear. You do not." Days passed, and I found myself summoned repeatedly. Each meeting was formal, yet tinged with curiosity. She questioned me about Earth, about human customs, about our approach to diplomacy, warfare, and survival. I answered as truthfully as I could, careful not to offend, yet maintaining the honesty that had so clearly captured her attention in that first whisper. Then came the incident that would forever change our dynamic. A diplomatic crisis erupted on a nearby colony world. Rebel factions, angered by the Ilyari influence, seized control of key systems, threatening to destabilize an entire sector. The Queen called an emergency council, and I was unexpectedly invited to participate, not as a human envoy observing, but as a consultant. The council had already drafted plans, using advanced Ilyari algorithms to predict rebellion patterns and deploy military responses. But the Queen, remembering my forthrightness and insight, asked for my input. I studied the maps, analyzed the projections, and realized that the Ilyari strategy, while brilliant, relied on assumptions about human unpredictability and certain unknown cultural variables in the colony's population. I suggested a course that incorporated both Ilyari precision and human improvisation. The Queen listened intently, her expression unreadable, until I finished. Then she nodded slowly. "Human," she said, her tone carrying weight across the chamber. "You may lead a small strike team with these parameters. Success or failure, your council has earned this trust." The operation was tense. Rebel forces were well prepared, and the terrain was treacherous, with unstable orbital platforms and shifting energy fields. Yet, through a combination of Ilyari technology and human adaptability, we succeeded. Key objectives were captured with minimal casualties, and the rebellion was contained. When we returned to the capital, the Queen met me personally. There were no ceremonial accolades, no grand speeches. Instead, she stood before me, her gaze steady. "You did well," she said simply. "Perhaps more than I expected of a human." I blinked. "Thank you, Your Majesty." "No," she said, leaning slightly closer. Her eyes held a depth I had never seen. "Not for me. For yourself. You saw a path where others saw none. You acted. You risked. That is remarkable." Her words resonated deeply. I realized then that our initial encounter, the whisper, the acknowledgement of her magnificence, had been the opening of a door I didn't know existed. One simple act of honesty had led to trust, responsibility, and a bond that transcended the rigid boundaries between species. Weeks turned into months. I became a frequent advisor to the Queen, traveling with her across systems, observing her leadership, and participating in missions that tested every aspect of human and Ilyari capabilities. Each encounter strengthened our understanding of one another. Her curiosity about humans never waned, and my respect for her wisdom deepened with every decision she made. The Council and other alien delegates watched with intrigue. Humans had rarely earned such a place of influence within Ilyari politics, and yet, here I was, an observer turned participant, all because of a whispered word. There were moments of levity, too. The Queen, despite her authority, displayed humor and playfulness when we were alone, teasing me about human quirks and our tendency to overthink. I found myself laughing with her, learning that even the most powerful leaders carried their own vulnerabilities and joys. And yet, underlying it all was a lesson I would never forget. Honesty, courage, and respect had opened doors that protocol and fear could never unlock. One simple whisper had changed the course of my life, allowing me to step into a galaxy that had once seemed impenetrable. Years later, I would look back on that moment in the chamber, the first whisper, the first acknowledgement, and realize that it had set the stage for everything that followed. Not only had I witnessed the magnificence of a queen, but I had learned that even in the most formal, rigid, and alien environments, authenticity could forge trust, create bonds, and inspire change. As I stood beside her on the observation deck of her flagship, gazing at distant stars, I understood. A whisper, an honest word, and the courage to speak it could shift the balance of worlds, alter destinies, and leave one human, me, forever changed. And the queen? She turned toward me again, her eyes holding the same mixture of curiosity and respect they had on that first day, and I knew that some connections, once made, would endure across the stars.